Hello folks, I hope everyone's having a fantastic week. Today's video we're going to be taking a look at hero rounds. We're looking at the new expansion called Call to Arms. This is a 16 card set with 2 token cards here that are accompanying 2 cards from the set. I'm not seeing where this set is going to be available for purchase for the hard copies. I do see that it is available for the digital game. It got released maybe a week or two ago. It's definitely not in the new Kickstarter that just ended for Hero Rounds, but I'm going to be taking a look at all these cards and comparing them. Now, these 16 cards from this new set were originally promo cards released through various different promo sets from different Kickstarter starters. There are 2 cards in particular that have changed mechanics or wording. They're not vastly different, but I'll take a look at those and point them out when we get to them. But I'm gonna start comparing these cards each to see what they compare to in the base set, as well as if I think they're worth purchasing while they're in the market. So let's take a look at the cards and see how they stack up. The first card we're going to look at is Afterlife. Now this is also the biggest change from the actual cards that are available now on the digital app. Afterlife on the digital app has a same cost and same ability, faction ability, the Necros ability, but the gold that you get from the initial ability was bumped up to 3. So that's great. So this is one of the promo shows it as 2 gold that you're going to be getting when you play it. So the first obvious comparison to this card is Influence and Bribe. Now, Afterlife and Bribe look pretty much identical except for their faction abilities. I prefer Afterlife for this ability here because I'm able to, as a thief, my main character is a thief, and I use the Shadow Mask ability. So I'm able to put this to the top of my deck with the Shadow Mask ability. And I'm able to set this up when I have a big, massive creature that's public enemy number 1. I know he's going to get killed on the opponent's next turn. So I'll set this up to where I can draw this the next, moving it to the top with the Shadow Mask ability. And then I'm able to cycle through my deck with the various card draw abilities that the thief has. Also, I'm pretty sure the Ranger and the Wizard can do something similar like this. To where they're able to filter through their cards to get to to Afterlife, but they don't have that initial moving it to the top of the deck. So this has saved me many times that I have a big creature on the board and I want it back. This gets it right back for me, or any creature that's in your graveyard. This puts it to the top of your library. Awesome ability. I like it better than Bribe's ability of acquiring an action to the top of your deck. That's still good. I love that card still. But of the 2, I prefer this one. And then if you have to make the comparison to Influence because they both have, they both give you 3 gold. 3 gold here. Influence costs 1 less, but the faction ability is actually a sacrifice ability. Which, Influence lets you get rid of itself. Once the job is done, once you use that gold, then if need be, you can get rid of this card on its own. Whereas to Afterlife, this card is going to stick around, and you want it to stick around because that ability, you want to be able to use that whenever you can to get that big creature back. But Influence on its own can get rid of itself, thinning out your deck, which is great. You may not necessarily want to do that with Afterlife, but overall, these 2 I got to give the edge to Afterlife because I like that faction ability. And Influence is great, and so is Bribe, but I gotta give it to Afterlife. I think Afterlife is the clear winner here. Again, it's 3 gold that you get, not 2. The next card we're going to look at is Born the Centurion. Now, there's nothing else really like it in the game right now. 5 gold, obviously, and he's going to give you an ability, a choice of abilities here, which is key in my comparison here. So you're either taking getting 3 combat points, or you put one of these tokens into play, which acts as a whole separate champion for you and a guard. So if you were to use that second ability here to put the token into play, you're essentially getting 6 total guard damage that you can soak up. Or if need be, you're going to do the 3 damage. Now you're going to choose the 3 damage obviously when it's going to help you out the most, whether it's to help for a killing blow on the opponent, or if you got a pesky champion that the opponent has out, you're going to choose the damage if that's going to be enough to take that champion out. If it's not, then you're not even going to bother with that combat damage. You're just going to put one of these tokens out. So that's cool. Negative I have for this card is that it costs 5. I think I would have liked to have seen this at 4 gold. So I'm not sure that this is too good of a card for my playstyle anyways. And the direct, this isn't really a comparison, but Call to Arms does introduce another card that puts a token into play. So I'm not sure that this is going to be the last we're going to see of tokens in normal cards. But Kasha the Awakener is another one. So the direct comparisons for Born, like I said, there's nothing else really out there like that. I guess I would compare it to Kristoff the Just. Even then, this isn't really much of a comparison here. 5 guard damage versus 6 if you opt in for the token. The damage here for the first one here is 2. You're going to get 2 damage, but if 2 damage isn't going to kill off a guard that the opponent has, then that's kind of a useless ability. Whereas to here, if 3 damage isn't enough to kill off an opposing guard, then you still have the option of bringing in the token. So I think for that first ability, this 3 combat is better because you get to choose to put in the token instead if this combat damage is insufficient. And besides, 2 combat is not that great on its own. Sure, there are other champions out there that you're going to be able to pick off with that damage. But having the option, instead of get 2 damage and that's it, I think this option here to put the token is much better than his initial ability to when you expend him. 3 health is nice, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think that health gain is better. Perhaps if they had bumped that up to 3 combat instead of the health, that would make Kristoff even better than Born. But I don't think, as he stands, that I don't think Kristoff is better than Born at all. The only other possible comparison I could see here is Parov, the Enforcer. I don't know. Kristoff does have a faction ability. By himself, he's not going to use it, but I guess if you're going heavy on the Imperials, then Kristoff would be a better bet. Same goes for same exact scenario over here. 3 combat that you're going to give to for his main ability, then the faction ability to draw a card. If you're going in on either one of these 2 factions, the Imperials or the Guild, then yeah, these guys would be a better option. Standing on their own, I think Born is going to be better. Either way, I don't like Born that much. I don't think he's that good of a card. Next card we're looking at is Blood Fang. Blood Fang is I don't know. I'm not too impressed with this card. The cost is pretty high, 5 gold. The only other comparison I can really make to it is, aside from the previous Kristoff the Just and Parov the Enforcer that we just saw a second ago, Blood Fang has the same option as Born the Centurion does. He's got this ability here for 2 gold, or you can discard a card and gain 6 combat. So that is a lot of combat. 6 combat is a lot. And having the ability of choosing between those 2 versus something like Dire Wolf, where you get 3 combat and that's it for the main ability. If 3 combat isn't enough to kill that guard, then you're stuck with that 3 combat and it basically goes away. It's useless for you. If that 6 combat isn't enough to do whatever you want, then you have the other option of getting the 2 gold. So that's always nice, having that option here instead of having an ability that could potentially be dead. Now, as far as the second ability here that you can choose, discarding a card, I hate discarding. That's my worst mechanic. I hate it. I love making people discard, but I hate it when it's done to me. Having to discard a card for that really sucks for me. Although, I mean, six, like I said, six combat, you're basically chucking a card and dealing 6 damage. You're essentially getting a dark energy for 7 instead 6, or an intimidation. Both are just one off, but it would be as if you would be playing either one of these cards. You're discarding, but you're essentially using that damage. I'm not really, like I said, I'm not that big of a fan of this card. And it's kind of unfair to compare it to Direwolf because these are two very different cards, but that's the closest comparison I can make here since it is in the Wild faction. Guard versus non-guard. I'm not a big fan of this card. Next card we're looking at is Crime Spree. Now this is a fun card. So 7 gold, that's hefty. 7 gold to acquire it is pretty hefty. The effect that you're going to get out of it is going to have to be good. So 5 gold. I love cards that give you big amounts of gold. 5 gold and 5 combat is pretty solid. Not 7 gold's worth, but 5 gold is a massive jump. All right. So the faction ability is where it really shines for me. Put a card from your discard pile on top of your deck. That's pretty nice. Any card you want, any monster, any massive beast of a card that is just terrorizing your opponent every time you drop it. You're going to put that card to the top. The closest comparisons I can make to this card is possibly Smash and Grab. So the 5 is a 6 combat versus 5 here for the main ability, and the gold is in here, but it's also 1 less here, Smash and Grab. And this has a similar effect where you get to put a card from your graveyard on top of your deck, on top of your library. Great. This is not a faction ability here, so that makes that slightly better here. And then the last ability here is you can sacrifice it to stun target champion, which is really good. Unfortunately, once you do that, it's going to be gone, so you're going to lose all those other benefits. So it's a last resort, last ditch effort. I really like Crime Spree, I guess. Next card we're looking at is Devotion. 3 gold. You get 4 health. 4 health. I'm not a big fan of single cards that gain you health. Sure, it's got a secondary ability under its main box here that you gain 1 gold for each champion you have in play. So if you have a few champions, this could really start to add up. But realistically, how many are you gonna have normally to where that's gonna consistently give you gold? If you have 2 or 3, great. That's not that big of a draw. So by itself, this card, that main ability, is not that good for me, either the health or the secondary ability there. It does have a faction ability to draw you a card. So this card, I think, only shines with other Imperial faction cards. So the closest comparison I can make here, it would be Recruit for 2 gold. It's going to give you 3 health, and it's got a similar thing where it's going to give you 1 more health for each champion you have in play. So similar mechanic over here. But the faction ability here is 1 gold, so this is essentially going to give you 3 gold if you're stocking up on Imperial cards. If not, then I don't think I can recommend Devotion otherwise. If you're not heavy into the Imperials, then Devotion would be a no-go for me. So on its own, I don't think I would say that Devotion is a good card. It's only after you have a bunch of the Imperial cards that you're gonna really start benefiting from it, because you can start chaining together. They have a lot of draw cards, and so that draw ability would be really what puts this card over the edge. Otherwise, no go for me. Next card we're going to look at is Dragonfire. Dragonfire is a monster of a card. So 7 gold, you get 7 combat, and you get to draw a card. That's pretty awesome. So the first comparison I can draw, stands right out, is Domination again. 7 combat versus 6 combat, both of them draw you a card. Domination lets you gain 6 health. Now 6 health is pretty significant at this point. If we're talking 3 health, no, that wouldn't be enough to motivate me to get this card. But I love Domination to begin with because that is 6 health. That is a lot. It does have a scrap ability, a recycle ability. It deals 4 damage to target player and to each of their champions. And then guards do not prevent this damage. to the non-guards. That is pretty significant if you're overwhelmed. That's going to give you the chance to clear the board. Faction ability here is to prepare a champion. That's also very powerful. The difference here is Dragonfire will work on its own, whereas to Domination will require more Imperial cards to get that faction ability to go off. So this isn't a one-to-one comparison here with Domination, because this is a whole different effect. The only other comparison I can make to that card right now is Valius Fire Dragon. It's a champion. When he comes into play, he deals 3 damage to all the creatures the opponent has, which is kind of what you're doing here. You're dealing 4 damage. So this is the only other effect that I've seen that is similar to this in Hero Realms. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure, though, that these 2 cards are the only ones that are dealing damage to all the champions. And what a coincidence, they're both dragons, right? Of course, it would be dragons that are reaping havoc. But either way, Dragonfire compared to Domination, I think I would still go with Domination if I was already invested in the Imperials. Otherwise, I think I would stick with Dragonfire, because I have a habit of not dealing a lot of damage and getting a lot of gold cards. And this right here would help me equalize the board if I get overrun at any particular time. So it's a one-time deal, but if you have it, you're gonna use that effect if you need it. And so I really like Dragonfire. I don't think. Next card we're looking at is Droga, Guild Enforcer. So this is the other card that had a significant change from what the actual promo card was versus what it is now in the digital game. So 3 gold and 3 health for a champion. It's one of these abilities again where you get to choose. It's not a faction ability. You actually get to choose when you activate that. So the difference here is stun target champion that's been damaged this turn. So that's pretty good. As that reads, you would have to have already damaged another champion the opponent has. And more than likely, you're going to have some sort of a card in your hand that's going to let you deal damage. So the update on the digital app was that instead of what this reads, it would deal 1 damage to target champion, and then you get to stun that champion. That's really weird wording. I'm not sure that is going to be any different than what they have listed here. It probably is. I'm just not understanding it correctly. I don't know that that's significant enough to warrant that kind of a distinction. I think this is a more simplified look at that effect than what the digital app is showing us. There's not much to compare that card to. Maybe Street Thug. Same cost, 3 gold. This one gives you 4 health. Street Thug is a very mediocre card to begin with. I think Droga, I'm not a fan of Droga either. So this is a mediocre card for me. Yeah, stunning a champion is good, obviously. I don't know that this is going to be the first card that I get. I don't know that I would get this card over, say, something like a Intimidate or a Bribe even, Afterlife. I think this would be very far low on my list of what to get. So same as Street Thug. I would put these 2 in the same category as cards that I wouldn't be looking for to get. Even if I had the extra gold, I would probably get a Fire Gem over it, or just let the gold go to waste. I don't think I would be purchasing Droga very often. Next card is going to be Galok the Vile. Champion, obviously 3 gold. He gives you 1 combat, and you can sacrifice a card in your hand or your discard, which is really awesome. I love that. That's one of my favorite mechanics there. And then if you do, it gives you 1 extra combat. I really like this card a lot. The closest comparison is going to be the Rot. Lets you sacrifice a card. You're going to be, if you do sacrifice it, you're going to be getting 2 combat here versus the 4. The offset here is that this is a champion. I guess Cult Priest is a similar stat champion. Not really, I guess. 4 health versus 2, and kind of vanilla effects here, abilities. So that's not really a good comparison, but there's no other really, I can't think of any other champion that's in play right now that's gonna let you sacrifice cards at this cost. Sure, you have the 6, 7, and 8 cost Terranor and Lies and I forgot what the other guy, the red guy, is. But at this cost right here, I don't think there's any other champions that are gonna let you sack. I really like this card a lot, so definitely a card that I would get. Next card, Gorg Orc Shaman. Interesting card. 3 gold, 3 health, and draw a card and discard a card. So interesting, right? So the closest comparison right off the bat is going to be Orc Grunt. Similar stats here: 3 guard versus 3 regular health. I think the difference here is on the Orc Grunt. He's got the faction ability here for the wilds that draw a card versus, so for Orc Grunt, I would need to be invested in the wild faction in order for me to consider picking up this card. If I am heavily invested in the wilds, then I would certainly pick up Orc Grunt. So under those circumstances, this is pretty much equivalent here. The faction ability here is 3 combat versus 2. These effects are basically flipped. Difference here is here you have to draw a card and then you have to discard, whereas to here you're only drawing a card. So I think Orc Grunt is still the better card if you're invested in the wilds. If not, then this is going to be a filter card, very much like Elven Gift. It's same effect here, but I think on its own this card could be I think this card is mediocre. I would pick up this card over a weaker champion, but yeah, having a discard here is a real bummer. Yeah, this is a pretty close comparison here. I think I would go with the Orc Grunt if I'm invested in the wilds already, which, being a thief player, then I usually do go heavy wilds whenever I can. I would still get this card though. Yeah, I would. Next card we're looking at is Kasha the Awakener. Similar to Born the Centurion that we looked at earlier from the Imperial faction. 3 gold, 3 health. Put a zombie token into play, this is your zombie token. So there is no other ability here other than put this token into play. So essentially you're getting a 4 health, 2 combat damage. They're not guards. This is a pretty weak card. I think it is probably better than the Cult Priest. The only way I see this card being any good is if it hides behind guards and it manages to survive a couple turns, and these zombie tokens are really going to be populating your board. Even so, they're only 1 health, so it's a very small action. Even something like the Cult Priest would be able to wipe out your army pretty easily. Not that good of a card. I don't think I can recommend it. I don't recommend this card at all. I'm not a fan of it. It's not going to be powerful enough to actually help you. I think this is a card that you would want to get rid of if it was in your deck. I don't recommend that card. Next card we're looking at is Mobia, Elf Lord. I like this card a lot. 7 gold, 6 guard. Get you 3 gold and draw a card. It's unfortunate it does not have any kind of a faction ability. I don't know why. I don't think these effects are good enough to stand on his own. Closest comparison I can make is Kraka High Priest from the Imperial faction. Similar effects here: draw a card versus 3 gold, 2 health that it gains you. Again, that health is very negligible. 2 is not that big of a deal. Difference here is that this is a guard versus non-guard, and it has a faction ability. This is probably the closest comparison I can make. Between these two, I would probably still go with Mobia, but I guess you can draw a comparison here as well. Torgon, bigger health, opponent discards a card. I would be really torn between these 2 cards here because I really like punishing the opponent and making them discard as many cards as possible. I love it when I can get to 4 discards, 5 discards even. So I think I would, oh man, this is a tough call right here between these 2. I don't know which one I would choose. On one hand, this is one of my favorite cards here. I love this card a lot. Torgon is a beast. But I love my card draw. The thief has a lot of card drawing effects that this just compounds it. Highly recommend Mobia. Highly recommend scooping up this card whenever possible. Again, I don't know if I would choose it over Torgen. I would probably choose it over Kraka. But yeah, really like Mobia. Good job on this card. Nice art. I'm not a fan of flavor text. It just adds a little more confusion, especially when you have a lot of room and you can really make fonts much bigger. But it's getting off the subject. I really like Mobia. Raiding Party. This is probably my most favorite card in the whole set. Because I really like making opponents discard. Biggest comparison here is Elven Curse. Both cost 3. Both make opponents discard a card. Difference here is you're gonna get a lot more damage out of Elven Curse. I don't think in the initial ability 4 versus 6 is that big of a difference. If you don't factor in the faction ability, then I think I would want Raiding Party because of that gold. Similar to Elven Gift. You're going to get gold back out of that, but that's not really a comparison. The faction ability here, 9 damage. I still think I would want the Raiding Party over Elven Curse. I would, whenever either of these cards pop up, I'm going to scoop them up no matter what. But if I could only buy one, I would definitely go with Raiding Party because that's just how I play. That's my style. Even if I was heavily invested in the wilds already for that extra 3 faction ability, I would still go Raiding Party, I think. Because 4 is pretty healthy. 4 combat is significant enough, I think. But punishing that opponent with making them discard is really rough. So this is probably my favorite card. Next card we're looking at is Ren Bounty Hunter. Very mediocre card for me. I don't particularly like this one. So I usually do not even consider this card when it's in the market row. I just skip something. If I have 4 gold I need to kill, I'm going to use it on a character ability or a fire gem even. 2 combat, stun target champion, cost 4 or more. Or I'm sorry, 4 or less. Yeah, I guess. The only redeeming quality about this is the faction ability. If you've stunned a champion this turn, gain 3 gold. So that's rough. I don't think that faction ability is significant enough for me to look at it and consider it. I guess you can compare it to Ramus the Smuggler. Another very mediocre card in my eyes. I avoid these cards whenever possible, so I don't think that Ren is worth it for me. I would avoid that card. Even if I'm heavily infected in the guild faction, I would still avoid him. This is another really fun card that I love a lot. Robbery. 1 gold, draw a card for 2 gold. Faction ability, 2 combat, that's negligible. Closest comparison I can draw here is Death Threat. 1 more gold though. But this is very similar already. Faction abilities here are different. Stun target champion. I can go either way. I love Robbery a lot though. I get this card whenever possible. Next card we're looking at is the Summoning. Now this is a big card here. 7 gold it costs. It gives you 4 gold, and you may put the next champion you acquire this turn on top of your deck. I think the wording is a little different, but it gives you the same effect. I love cards that give you a lot of gold. That's a lot of gold, but 7 is a little too much. I would have liked to have seen this card at the 6 cost. Maybe even at the 5 cost, but reducing the gold to 2 maybe. Acquiring a champion and putting it on top of your library is really awesome. In contrast, something like Bribe lets you put an action, which is kind of the opposite here. You're putting an action to the top of your deck that you acquire. This one you're putting a champion, so a little contrast. Obviously these 2 cards don't compare, but similar abilities here that are on the opposite ends there. I guess the only other significant comparison I can make here would be with Crime Spree from the same set. Not really. 7 cost, 5 gold. Put a card from your discard pile on top of your deck. I think that is comparable to the main ability here of acquiring a champion to the top of your deck. I think in this situation I would still go with Crime Spree. I would definitely buy the summoning if I had 7 gold and there was no other 7 or even 6 cost spell to buy. I would buy this. Otherwise, comparing to other 7 cost spells or actions and champions, I probably wouldn't get that. I do like that ability of getting a champion, but there are better spells out there that they're not going to necessarily do this ability here. I can't think of any other action that specifically lets you acquire a champion to the top of your deck. So that is a unique ability. I don't think that's enough for me to recommend this card very much. Last card we're looking at is Valius Fire Dragon. I love this card. I have a habit in my gameplay to not do enough damage to focus a lot on cards that give you gold. This card is kind of a balance out the board state. So 7 gold, that's significant. If you can get this card though, it's great because you're going to deal 3 damage to all the opponent champions and to the player. 3 damage is going to be enough to wipe out most of those champions, unless you're up against the cleric, in which case they're pretty beefed up. So 3 damage to everything. Hopefully by that point you also in your hand have some more damage that you're going to be able to finish off what you need to. This is a pretty monster card. This card has saved me on so many occasions because of my playstyle. So I really like that card. The only other card I can really compare that to would be Arcus, the only other dragon in the game. And of course, dragons are going to have a massive effect. I think I would go with Valius Fire Dragon over Arcus Imperial Dragon because of that effect. Drawing a card is great. 5 combat is significant, but out of those 2 abilities alone, I think I like Valius's ability more than the draw card in 5 combat. I would go with Valius. The guard versus non-guard is significant, but then the cost is also a factor too. I would go with Valius. Valius is definitely a big card. Better than Arcus, I feel. Now, in this set, my favorite cards I love Robbery. It's a cheap card, and it basically replaces itself in your deck. I think under most circumstances, I can't think of too many situations, but there are a few. This is essentially a free card in your deck. Great. This card here, Raiding Party, I love making opponents discard, and 3 is a nice cost. Getting 2 gold out of that, I really like that ability. I always like getting more gold back. Dragonfire, same thing like I said earlier. It's a draw card, and then the sacrifice ability is what I like about this card here, because it's easy for me to get overwhelmed by opponent champions. And then Valius again, because you're dealing mass damage to everything. That's a go for me. Those are my favorite cards in the set. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know that I'm not a top tier player. I don't know a lot of the meta for the game. I do play the Hero Realms app, and I do enjoy it a lot. I play it a lot, but I definitely am not a very strategic player for this game. I enjoy having fun with it. I could be wrong in a lot of my assessments here in these cards, but I do enjoy this set a lot. I love this set. It had been a while since we had any significant addition, expansions to the actual core set itself. There's been the Lost Village and the Rune of Thandar, but these cards here having an official release instead of them being just promo cards, really awesome. It's going to add a lot to the game for me as well. Even though I already had these cards, I really enjoy having these mixed into the core set on the digital game. I give this set 4 thumbs up. Well, I only have two. I give it 4 out of 5. I really enjoy it a lot. Thanks for stopping by, and hope you enjoy the video. See you next time.